Hello, welcome to April 6th, 2022. I'm Kurt, and this is my Good Life Meditation. I do this every morning, first thing after I get up, to check on my objectives and principles and to see how I'm doing applying these. I'm surprised that I feel as good as I do, because I really had an awful night of sleep last night. I must have been up for an hour and a half. I mean, fully up before 3:30 maybe. I must have woken up and just laid there in bed until until the alarm went off, watching Venus rise above the horizon. It's like it's like the clock of doom. Like the ball dropping in Central Park or in Times Square on New Year's Eve. As soon as I see Venus peak above the horizon, I know that my time is up. It's only a matter of half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. And then it's time to get up and do it all over again. But yesterday's meditation really, it sounds so serious, meditation. Yesterday's reflections, yesterday's thoughts, yesterday's video, really you made me think about that, the dial. It's no longer at 9, it's at 6 and going down. Kind of cruised through the day as a result. It was a tough day yesterday. Not a chance of a break. I did get to Yumiko and I walked the dogs to the park at lunchtime. That was good. I really need to. I almost always do that because it's important for the dogs to have their time. We've got a yard, so we can open the door and they go outside, but they really need to stroll around and socialize. Don't we all? Yeah, yesterday was a rough day and a rough night. Today's going to be probably more of the same. Although the big issues I was tackling yesterday at work have mostly been resolved, but I'm starting to see now that this whole project, my big project, is going to be like that the whole way through. It's I had an example yesterday that came to mind. It's not coming back to me now, but it's going to be for the next, probably to the end of my career. I'm kind of hoping to retire at age 60, and I'm probably going to be at this particular. I really hope this is my last job, or at least the last job that I have to do. Pardon me, because I'm probably, when we get back to Japan, I'm probably going to find something to do to employ myself. I'm maybe even thinking about getting a job trying to get a job like a convenience store. Hi, Rashimasu. Something, because something like that, I'd have to speak Japanese, or something. Anyway, I'm off track. The point was, this is my life. It's a good life. It's a really good life. No complaints. No, but it's hard. It's hard too, as I'm sure yours is too. We all find life to be a difficult thing in its own way, in our way. So, if that's the case, another 2 years of this every day, what kind of toll is that going to take on my well-being and health? Something. Unless I can become some sort of a transcendental meditation yogi, and float myself above it all. No wonder those monks in Japan would, sequester themselves away in their cloistered temple. But that looks a lot to me like retreat, and I don't think there's any other chances at this. So I don't want to retreat. It would be like retreating from the. That's a silly example. Elton John just did his farewell tour, right? It'd be like retreating from the front row seat of his concert, right? Like you're not gonna have this chance again unless you got a real bad bout of diarrhea. You better stay. This is a lame title here. Opportunity of retreat. It's fun to pick out the possible title of these videos in the course of making them. Okay, what kind of opportunities did I have yesterday to live the good life, so to speak? And if you think I don't struggle with that title, I do. It sounds like a lot, like saying, here's the good life. But I mean, it's the ambition, it's the aim of living a good life. It doesn't necessarily mean that I believe that I have found a prescription for it. I just have I'm just making my best effort. Well, certainly was an uphill climb yesterday. Trudge. I had a bullseye aim episode where I suggested something to the team and got shot down. And they were right. I don't know what I was thinking. I had another bullseye aim where we tried to resolve a problem. It's like getting kids on a bus to come home from Disneyland. I thought I had 8 kids. I'm not talking about my coworkers. I'm not referring to them as kids. I'm referring to the in scope items in the project. Each of them is a child. Okay, I thought I had 8 scope items, 8 kids to get on the bus, and last week when we got lined up, we realized there were like 12. Like, where do these other kids come from? Well, it turns out they need to be on the bus too. Oh, okay. Well, then I had to do a lot of early part of this week was sorting that out, because it turns out that some of those kids didn't need to be on the bus, but those last ones, those 4 that showed up, they do. So I had to sort them all out and get them okay just right, and tell the bus driver, wait, and got it all together. And then yesterday afternoon, we finally got it all together. I had another meeting with the bus driver. Everybody's square. Okay, here we go. 8 kids getting on the bus. And just at the last minute, I counted again. There's 9. Who's he? Where did that kid come from? Oh, he needs to be on the bus too. Oh. So, bus driver, hold on. I was supposed to get the bus out the door yesterday. That's what I was up last night thinking about. I was thinking about how I'm going to handle that. And the bus driver made me promise. He said, okay, I'll accept this change, but no more changes. And here I'm showing up with another kid, another in-scope item. That I can handle, but it also turns out that kid left his backpack in the park. So I got to go back into the park and find his backpack from the lost and found or wherever the heck it is. And that's just going to be the way it is. Had one moment yesterday. I won't give out any names or anything like that, but I have to be very careful when I talk about work and when I talk about coworkers. But I'll keep this very high level. Had a moment yesterday with a coworker that, I saw real fear in his eyes. I should have said their eyes. Now, it's going to be okay. Fortunately, the fear that I saw was the fear of caring. That doesn't come out right when I say it that way. The fear of caring. It sounds like it says, I'm afraid to care. No, it's the fear that comes of giving a damn and worrying about the possible consequence of what could happen. So if anything, I'm sincerely and deeply flattering this coworker for taking his job so damn seriously and caring so much to be afraid at work. in that case, the principle that would come to bear is the recognition of true limits and true opportunities. This is the discovery that he made that caused such fear was a consequence of a fact that he wasn't around, at a certain time. And this is an artifact of the past. It's interesting. It's rare that I actually bring others into this. I do that. I'm careful about that because I don't. It's wrong for me to do that. But I think this is okay in this space. And then other than that, we had a great dinner last night. Didn't get much reading done after work. Well, because I had meetings that took me, well after the work. I was working after work, which cut into my reading time. So I only got like 2 pages done. I try to read 10 pages a day. I average 12 to 15. So I'm always ahead of my quota. It is literally as a quota. I require this of myself to read, because it is in terms of personal utilizations of time that are not family related, it is my very best use of time to read. So I demand it of myself. It is not a good day, or it can be a good day, but it's not an optimally used day unless I've got it squeezed in 10 pages of high quality reading. High quality means careful, attentive reading of good quality stuff, not just dime store filler. And that comes back to the objective of making good and effective use of time. Okay, let's do the good life. 7 objectives, 30 principles. And we've got the accompaniment of a snoring dog. There we go. The 7 objectives are to always be ready to die, to have everything in order. Number 2, to make good use of my time, like I just said. Number 3, to develop and maintain a set of good and sound life principles, a creed of sorts that I use to give me a bearing on my compass of life, and some tools to sort out my challenges and make things better of when things go south, and avoid things going south in the first place. Next is to cultivate good emotional reactions so that I don't fly off the handle. And so I keep steady control, to recognize when I need to lash myself to the mast like Ulysses, or have my sailors do it. My sailors, I don't have any sailors. You get the point. So, or when I have to, when I can weather the storm, keep my ears unstopped. My ears unstopped. I like that. Ears unstopped. And unlashed to the mast. Next is to perform good actions, and then to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities, so that I'm not chasing after things that aren't possible, and I am after the things that I can do. And then to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly. Okay, those are my objectives. Now for my principles. To always fight a war against everything that I think is true. And anything that anyone else proposes is true. That seems important. I don't challenge mundane claims. You tell me that you like Rocky Road ice cream, that's fine with me. But you tell me that some wine turns into the blood of Christ when you put it in your mouth, that's going to require some proof. before I'll believe that. Otherwise, just dismiss that. Next is reason and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt, which is how the effort that I make as I move through life to examine what I see and to make reasonable determinations of truth. Next is the homunculus, the suggestion that, I think it's quite clear. There is no such thing as a soul. That's just about the weakest position in theology. There's no reason to think that's the case. So, if I don't have a soul, what do I have? Well, I have a consciousness, which, in addition to this biological apparatus, but the consciousness somehow emerges from that, from the bioelectrical state of my nervous system, supported by the rest of my biology. And that's what I get. So I focus on that. I don't focus on the fate of a seemingly non-existent, fleeting, whimsical apparition that may live within me. It apparently does not. I'll focus instead on the cloud of thoughts and awareness that, in fact, is within me, and only here for a little while longer, and degrading fast, going downhill. Well, it's funny, because as I go downhill, my cognitive capabilities are definitely on the decline, and my memory doesn't work. I can't even add things in anymore. It's like, I stuff new words into my brain and they don't stay. Whereas the words that I even made a cursory effort to learn new vocabulary when I was in my 20s and my late teens and early 20s, they're still there now. New words now, I can't do it. Anyway, as long as although that's declining, there is a steadiness at the helm that was never there in my youth. That is the boon of maturity. Yeah. This relative ease, this balance, this equanimity that I could have only have dreamed of being like this when I was in my 20s. Although my mind in my 20s was ripe and pregnant with ideas and inspiration and energy and vitality, and just like my body was. That's all gone, largely. I'm back down to a 6. I was at a 12 in my early 20s. But none of it was in control. None of it was steady. None of it was studied or stayed or measured or deliberated. It was just it was like being on a roller coaster all the time. I am. So even though my brain is, my cognitive capability is on the decline, I am, what's the word? I guess it's mature. But it's not just maturity. It's gravity. It's balance. Well, I went a long ways on that one. What was that? I was dealing with the homunculus. Oh yeah, I was. And then the Anchorhold is the next one. The suggestion that each homunculi, each homunculus, is quite alone. We can never really be with one another. And then after that comes the home of good and evil. Right and wrong are opinions in our brains. Right and wrong doesn't exist outside of us. No mind of God holding some values or some canon of law. the whole universe operates against, true, there are the laws of physics, which are descriptive, but there's no reason to think that there's any agency behind that. Although it could be, but I'll withhold that supposition until there's some reason to think so. Okay, then the principle of purpose. My purpose is to be a good husband and father, citizen, a virtuous human being, and to share my message of my book, Going Alone. Then comes the atomic principle, a reminder that everything is built of atoms and molecules, as Lucretius would point out, and that in a very short time I'll be back to that. I'm reading The Life of Johnson, 3 volumes, long book, and Hester Thron, the Johnson's friend, she would write in the margins. And I noticed one of the things she does is she wrote this book after Johnson, or she added the marginal notes after he had died. She comments over and over, as James Boswell notes anecdotes of conversation between Dr. Johnson and his contemporaries. She says, she would comment, they're gone, all gone, all gone. She's marking off the deaths of all the people that in that world and society, who all of which now, of course, are 250 years hence, all quite gone. That entire world, all gone. That's a good one too. Next is how did I get that out of? I squeezed that out of the principle of nature, or the atomic principle. Next comes the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, including us, and it's good to know what that nature is. I was dealing with that yesterday. I was having a meeting with someone, and I was reminding myself what their nature was, so that it wouldn't surprise me. And it works. I don't feel any anger at or animosity at someone who does things according to their nature, even if it drives me nuts. And then after that comes the principle of the pirate ride. Free will is a very convincing illusion, and though I can't prove it, I'm deeply suspicious that free will is we don't have it. That we can seemingly make the choices, any choice we want, but in the end, we would never make any choice other than the one we actually do, because the universe mindlessly conspires to push us to whatever choice we make. It has way too much to say about it in the matter. We're more like dominoes falling over. The orientation and order and energy of the universe determines where the domino will in fact fall. Although you could say you could fall the other way. Well, dominoes can't fall any other way than they do, but that's the point. Okay, next comes, after the pirate ride, maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude, which is the state that I try to arrive at. That speaks back to the thing I was saying earlier about I'm not the person that I was. I guess it's more maturity, right? And then this social, is that right? Social principle. We're social creatures. We need each other. Try not to sequester myself away anymore from humans, but to be one of us. And then public speaking, to use few words, carefully chosen words, and deliberate words, and to carefully construct my communications, written and spoken, using language that is well understood and to the point, and being very careful in my listening and attentiveness to others, and to never ever gossip. Then comes temperance and the sub-principles of suffering, simplicity, and apathy. A temperate life is a life of careful and deliberate consumption, consuming less, maybe less than actually we need, a little less. And then after that comes the horror show. Life is a absolutely terrifying horror show. You and I might have some moments now of respite, but the horror show the horror is coming for us, and I need to remember that. It's not just for us human beings, but for our pets and for all the critters out there in the world. The next principle is that which must be borne, carried. And what I have to carry is the fact of the horror show, and also the fact of my responsibilities. My life is now on the dial, is at a 6, and steadily going down, but it's probably going to be at a 6, alternating maybe up to a 7 once in a while. Maybe if I'm lucky, get it down to a 5 a little bit for another 2 or 3, 4. I hope not, depending on how long it takes to be ready for the next stage. Years. And then the next comes distraction. Life, we spend our lives filling our time up with distractions. Work is a great distraction. Family is another terrific distraction. Religion is probably the best distraction of all, because it permeates everything. Once we've convinced ourselves of a superstructure of the universe, of universe administration, then it all kind of we're relieved of, in a sense, of responsibility. It's in God's hands. All we need is to apply the appropriation and supplication and worship, and we'll be fine. And then we busy ourselves with doing that for the rest of our lives. So, it's a tailor-made distraction for those who, dare I say, are afraid to live. Or at least afraid to live looking straight at the fearful aspect of chaos and confusion and the disorder and the apparent unguided nature of the universe. Willfully guided, unwillfully guided nature of the universe. A universe devolving into chaos with no end in sight and no rescue. Who wants to see that? So, yeah, I'll clasp my hands, and I believe it's a great distraction. So too is watching TV. But you can only do it when the TV's on. So too is whatever it is that we choose to use to spend our time doing puzzles, cooking, getting involved in gossip, keeping up with current affairs. Politics is another one, right? All this stuff. Distraction. What are we distracting ourselves from? The great indifference, the deep emptiness of the universe, behind the veil of cacophony of human and animal agency. The point of my book, again. Okay, so then there's that's that, and the next one is the best seat in the house, to try to be okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing right now. And then, after the best seat of the house, comes the Path of Wildness, which is a way forward through and into new life. And then the risk of avoiding risk, remembering to go after the deep risk of finding ourselves and teasing out our own identity and story from the distractions of life and from the busyness of life, the busyness of home and family and career and education and security. Excuse me. And then sin and damnation is next. There are 8 sins in my worldview. These are falsity, credulity, hope, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, and gossip. And engaging in any of these leads us into a damned state in the here and now, where we wind up believing things that may not be true, or we engaging in activity, namely gossip, that is a wholesale destructive, and just the worst use of time. Well, maybe not as bad as sadism, but it's pretty bad. Okay, sin and damnation, complete oblivion, without a soul, that means that after death, there's nothing to follow. So we won't see our loved ones again when we die. We won't have a chance to make amends or reconcile. And there won't be any righting of wrongs, because we'll be dead and we'll be gone and we're never coming back. And we won't even know it. That's complete oblivion, all right? And then the great life adventure, one or more experiences that becomes the centerpiece of our life, our story. Think of the World War II vets that used to wear the hats and say, World War II veteran, or Vietnam veteran. That's kind of their identity, right? They're wearing it on their hat, you know. This is what I am. You know, I'm a football star. You know, I went to Harvard, or you know, I'm an executive vice president, or you know, I'm a mom of three. You know, whatever it is, that's our story, right? And you can have these mundane, off-the-shelf stories, or you can build your own story, that's what I recommend trying, if you're so inclined, right? Some people aren't even inclined to do that. But if you are, go for it. That's where you get on the path of wildness that I mentioned earlier, another principle earlier. Path of wildness, the way forward into and through a new life. It's easy to find. It's the course of a stream. It's leaves blown in the wind, a beast's track through the brush, and the direction of your first inclination. The next principle is the season of philosophy, a time to record what we've learned along the way. And then the bullseye aim, striving for the mark, the bullseye, but usually missing by some degree or a lot, but sometimes hitting it. I think I hit it yesterday. That one thing yesterday, I thought I was going to have a bullseye aim on that one meeting, but I think I nailed it. I thought I was going to miss, but I think I nailed it. Lucky me. Uphill climb is the next principle. Trudge, trudge, trudge. Climb, climb, climb. Even though I'm on the decline, on the bell-shaped curve, I'm still climbing, still trudging up. And the view is getting better and better the higher I go. And then uphill climb, and then arena and utility. Life is an arena for the use of our principles to live a better life. Nothing is enough is the next principle, a reminder to try to get by with less. And then finally, the principle of fun, a steady reminder to have a good time. All right, that's my good life creed for today. Now, for today, I have like 4 or 5 meetings today, moderately intense, and I have those issues to resolve, and I will. 2 more years of this, maybe 3, maybe 4, depending on how things go. Depends on how long it takes my daughter to be out on her own. Gotta keep the steady foundation intact until she's established. I hope I get a chance to do my yoga today. It makes a difference. Anyway, have a good day. Be safe, but not too safe.